Progressive Motorcycle presents Road Wisdom from the Motor.
Half man, half motorcycle.
If you missed a turn, there's always another turn.
Always.
Take it to get back to the turn you missed.
Use your turn signal.
Progressive Motorcycle also presents Roadside Assistance. Progressive Motorcycle, for those who were born to ride. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online, so any small business can drive change or build an empire. Because old ideas aren't cutting it anymore. This new year, we need a new generation of thinking, your way of thinking. So whatever you have in mind that will help make a different future, find everything you need to get started at GoDaddy.com. Because the future isn't decided yet. It's still ours to win. Start different at GoDaddy.com.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
What's up, everyone? Freddie the Pizza Man here, host of the Pizza Man podcast. Now joining forces with ChristopherMedia.net. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, the Pizza Man podcast. And, of course, find all the podcasts on ChristopherMedia.net. We talk Detroit sports. I bring on guests, passions, opinions, all for Detroit sports and more. We even talk pizza. So thanks for tuning in and spread the word.
Christopher Media, let's make some noise. Welcome to Beer Nuts, a weekly excursion into the world of craft beer, brought to you by MichiganBeerGuide.com. And now, here are the Beer Nuts.
All right, everybody, welcome to Beer Nuts, episode number 107. This is going to be a classic Dugout's idea for Cuvees blends. That's two or more beers mixed together to form, hopefully, an even better tasting concoction. And some of these might be fantastic. Some of them have been tried and tested. Other ones are going to be completely blind, including our last one of the evening, which I'm saving just to be random, and we'll see what happens. But, let's get the thing started. We're all thirsty. Invite you all to please join us with a beer. We're not pretentious. Whatever you enjoy. Hey, you can make a Cuvees out of a Bud Light and a Pabst if you wanted to. So enjoy whatever you're enjoying. Hopefully it's something a little bit more interesting than that. I'm sure our beers will be, but cheers, everyone. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. We're running out of quotes of the week because we've done 107 episodes. So I'm just going to be a simple one that I've known for years. I may or may not have already used it on the show, but it is, "Drink for tomorrow we shall die," Shakespeare, Macbeth. But I follow up that with a quote from me, "Drink for tomorrow we shall drink again," John Russ. So John Russ is a pretty smart guy. I'd rather drink tomorrow than die tomorrow, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, so we only have 3 beer nuts tonight, but we have a good crew here. I'd like to welcome SAK.
Good to be back.
He's here in the island with me, JR, here on Grozil, and Dugout is with us from Clawson.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
So let's just dive right into this. SAK is excited about his Cuvees pairing, so we're going to turn it over to him for the first selection of the evening. So welcome, SAK.
I was inspired to try to duplicate one of the desserts that I really like. I do like Bananas Foster. I do like Cherries Jubilee. But there's something called Pêche Louis, or Peaches Flambé, which I wanted to try to duplicate. I have 2 things. Now, certainly the peach, it's a little bit hard to come up with a peach beer. Shorts does have a peaches and cream, which is just like peach syrup. But I have a peach gosa from Southern Tier. A gosa wouldn't normally pair, I don't think, with a stout, which I'm going to pair with later. But if I know Southern Tier, everything they do, they go over the top. A peach bomb, a sugar bomb, diabetes mix, that kind of thing. And I'm going to pair this peach gosa with, from Dark Horse, a bourbon-barreled Plead the Fifth Imperial Stout, hoping to duplicate the bourbon in a peach flambé with the obviously the peaches. So let's see what we've got here.
Sounds tasty.
no way of knowing the proper mix ratio here.
Well, it's just trial and error. So
That's it. Yep.
Saying not to do. Usually it's one more than one than the other, but I think
my recommendation is to not fill the glass all the way. Take your first sip, and then you can tell what's lacking if it's one or the other, and then you can fill to taste. That's been my experience with it.
All right, Steve, what do you think?
Well, interesting. The the Gosa is it's usually a pretty easy drinker, but it is a soured ale, which usually has a bit of salt, coriander. This one in particular has. Let me think. Maybe my cheaters on. Sour ale brewed with peaches, chamomile, cardamom, and coriander. What do I think? Well, certainly the bourbon barrel plead the fifth would normally be very overpowering, but the sour aspect of the Gosa and the peach does give it a very unique sour stout taste. It is sweet. The peach and the spices in the Gosa probably come through more than the bourbon does, and more than the what you would normally. I would just smell the burned malt or the toasted malt in the plead the fifth, but in this one in particular, the Gosa is kind of the overwhelming nose characteristic on the nose.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. In the name of science, I'm thinking let's pour some more plead the fifth in and see if we can balance it out. We're going to try that.
Doug, do you know of any peach stouts? I know that there are some stouts that certainly have cherry, raspberry, blueberry.
Yeah, I've not heard of any peach stouts. Peach is not a very common ingredient in beer. Typically, you need the lactose to sort of smooth it out, but that lactose, like a peach milk stout, might work really, really well.
I think it's improved with more stout, but that peach is still pretty overpowering.
I will have to try the peach Gosa by itself, I think. I suspect it's a peach bomb. John, would you like to try the Gosa by itself?
Oh, yeah. Peach bomb.
Not shocking from Southern Tier. Their creme brulee stout is just a syrup sugar bomb. Certainly, a lot of their stuff is kind of over the top.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, unless you're on insulin. But yeah, I think it's improved with a larger ratio of the stout. But the peach, man, it didn't go away that much. Maybe the next time, if we were to try this again, I'd put a few tablespoonfuls of the peach in and have it just enhance the stout. But it's a little personal preference too, because I'm a much bigger stout fan than I am sour. It's actually pretty good though. You get a nice bourbon booziness to it to complement that little tart peach. It's pretty good. I could drink this. So it's not a drink for.
No, it's definitely a dessert beer now.
Well, not surprising there, given the two breweries and two beers. But yeah, that's a good, real interesting combination that you were shooting for, and it was a good learning experience. Any more comments?
No, I'm looking forward to some of the other combinations that we come up with.
All right. Well, thanks for the ingenuity. I think we're going to move on up to Clausen to Dugout.
All right. Well, I guess in a way, this is what started the episode, this combination here. And And I have to think back to one of the beer festivals in Detroit where we were at, and we were doing our own Cuvees with Coonan Brewery, and we were using Bourbon Barrel 4D and Cherry Oak Brewing and mixing those two, much to the aghast of the staff of Coonan, like, no! But they were so good. They really were. That cherry and that bourbon just kicked it together. But this is the one that started the episode. I have two beers that we have reviewed more than one time each. But I thought it'd be fun to bring them together. This just came about by accident. I was sitting outside and somebody had left halves of both beers. And I went, what the heck, why not? So what I have is from Shorts Brewing, I have Humalupalicious. That's their flagship India Pale Ale. It's very hoppy. It's got a nice kick to it, I think a little bit over 7%. And then on the other side, I have M43 from Old Nation, one of the country's hottest beers. We've reviewed it a couple times. It's a New England-style IPA. Runs at 65 IBUs and 6.8 alcohol percent. So alcohol-wise, these beers are nearly identical. The IBUs are severely different, and the style is different. Huma uses a bit of wheat malt in it. It does have a little haziness to it when you first pour it. So this beer is definitely going to be hazy no matter what. And I went on the 50-50 scale here. I mean, the nose is the M43 takes over the nose. So you have like sort of these tropical fruits, this mango and pineapple, citrus, but the Huma on its own has plenty of citrus as well. So, and pininess, but I mixed them together, and this is like, I'd buy this beer over these two beers. It's got this beautiful hop character and hop bitterness to it, followed by this luscious sort of tropical fruit flavors. It's really both beautiful characters of both, or the characters of both beers come out beautifully on this mix. I think in a way this improves the M43. The can that I have is really, really fresh. And, we've always talked about fresher IPA, the better. That's not always the case with New England beers. The fresher ones, they do need to settle for a couple weeks. That those hops do need to fall off because they're so prevalent in the beer and they're so raw in the beer. Whereas on, like, say, the Huma, you're getting a lot of hop oil that's been boiled into the beer. That's already settled out. Anybody can correct me. This is my own opinion on the New Englands, is that, give it a few weeks. New England that's a month old, to me, is going to taste better than a New England that's 2 days old. Just my preference. But it smooths out that harshness, that harsh hop edge from the M43 by mixing in the Huma. And it's just a straight up 50-50 mix. I could almost see going a little heavier Huma because the M43 really takes over the palate.
Doug, what hops do those beers have primarily?
Oh, let's see. I know that, kind of caught me off guard here. I know that Huma uses Centennial and Amarillo, I believe. I've made a couple clones of it. That's my experience, and probably some Citra, where M43, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, JR, if you want to look this up real quick and save me, that'd be awesome.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, Doug.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm just going off sort of taste profile. That M43 definitely has Citra and probably Centennial. And then I'd have to go look that up for the rest of it. They do have similar hop profiles, so you got it?
Okay. Humalupa, brewed with 5 different hops. Centennial, Columbus, Chinook, Cascade, and Palisade. Let me check M43 now. Alrighty. Yes, I'm 21 years old. And then some. Okay. Complex character from the combination of Calypso, Simcoe, Citra, and Amarillo hops.
What is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's too many that overlap.
And the profile could be similar, even if it's different hops, I suppose.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's not really much of anything that overlaps. I think in Huma, the Cascade and Centennial are prevalent, so you do get that pininess off of it. Whereas the M43, you've got the soft side of those hops, so you're not getting the bitterness out of them.
Well, that's an interesting combination. I would have never thought to do that, but like you said, sometimes accidentally you discover something good like that. I'll make it a point to try that because I love both of those beers individually.
But I don't recommend just mixing beers that you find in your patio after the party's done.
Yeah, it wasn't really a party. It was just...
I'm sure just one of those things that seemed like the cool thing to do at the time.
Yep. I mean, those beers are sitting there. It was either dump them or pour them into the glass. And I would have
Hopefully
poured them into and they were glass drinks, so...
Hopefully you didn't find any cigarette butts in those bottles.
No cigarette butts, no chew. Yeah, none of that. No, they were just bottle pours of people that couldn't hang. So I'm curious to see what's up on the docket next.
All right. Well, this one's going to be interesting. Steve's here with me. He's going to have to take one for the team here because I got a pretty interesting, and this is untested, untried, complete stab in the dark, but at least the names are going to be good because I have Ghost in the Machine, one of the best hazy, juicy IPAs I've had ever that I picked up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana recently. And I figured with Ghost in the name, I've been searching for a reason to pop this bottle of Ghostface Killa, which is marketed as the hottest beer this side of hell. It's I'll just read from the website. It's from Twisted Pine Brewing, Colorado. 5.2% ABV, only 15 IBUs. It says, underneath an unassuming straw gold veil lurks the searing spice of 6 varieties of chili, including the infamous Boot Jolokia or ghost pepper. Utter agony for most, but absolute euphoria for a fiery few. So, many of you know that I enjoy hot peppers and hot pepper beers. I'm going to be very, very cautious with the amount of the pepper beer that I put in with my Ghost in the Machine. Literally probably pour like a thimbleful, an SAK sample, and then I'll add as much as I can add and until it tastes good, hopefully. Hopefully like that the juicy, tropical, citrusy, grapefruity taste of the Ghost in the Machine will be a nice complement to a little heat. But let's try it out. All right. Well, Steve, what do you think? Are you already curdling?
I can handle a little bit of heat. I do recall trying a homemade ghost pepper.
I can't hear you.
I do remember.
Are you on mute?
I'm sorry. I'm not sure what to expect. I do remember having a homebrew ghost pepper beer by Mike, and broke out into a sweat.
All right. Well, I literally poured about 3 or 4 ounces of Ghost in the Machine, and
Mine. I need the Ghost in the Machine, and
you get some Ghost.
nope, there it is, right there.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So I just poured, I would say, probably a 8-to-1 ratio of Ghost in the Machine, just a little bit of the pepper one, because I'm
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
Yeah.
You got to be quicker with the mute buttons and just point at each other and use your mutes because you're getting all kinds of feedback crossing over.
All right, is that better?
Oh, way better. Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to start over again. Chris, edit this out, and if you don't, well, so be it. All right, I just poured about an 8-to-1 ratio of Ghost in the Machine to 1 part of the ghost pepper, just for a starting point, because I have no idea how. I fear the worst on this. I also poured a little bit of the ghost pepper beer out alone. I'm going to taste the mixture first before I abuse my palate any further. So here we go. Wow is right. Unbelievably that I poured literally probably 2 thimblefuls, not even a 1 finger, like a half a finger in this glass, and the entire thing like grapefruit on fire. So the decision not to pour very much ghost pepper beer in was a good one. If anything, I'm going to dilute it with some more Ghost in the Machine. Let's try that.
I think I tried a little bit higher ratio of ghost pepper to the IPA, and but there's a lot of flavor, but it's hard to get past the initial burn. This is not a burn that builds up. This is the one that spanks you in the ass right off the bat.
Wow, and I just poured a little bit more. It was actually tolerable the way it was, but I poured a little bit more Ghost in the Machine to dilute that pepper a little. I actually really like it now that I've diluted it a little bit, because it reminds me a little bit of what was the Founder's beer, Mango Magnifico, where at the very end there's some heat. Now that was habanero, and it wasn't nearly as strong as this. It was more of a subtle little heat zing at the end. So multiply that by about 6, and you'll get about what we have here. But I actually think it's a pretty good pairing, and I really only paired these together literally because they both had Ghost in the name, and I had to figure something to put that Ghost in, that Ghost Pepper beer in. And I actually think this works out pretty good, albeit the fact that the heat level is very high. Let Steve give his comments now.
For people who are not chili heads and don't really like the heat, you would have to dilute this, probably 10-to-1 at least. And there's still a lot of heat even at that, probably. I can only imagine what this tastes like straight up. That being said, the Cuvée does retain a lot of the kind of the juicy, citrusy, orange, grapefruity flavors of the original Ghost in the Machine IPA. But man, it is very, very, very hot.
Well, I just took one for the team and tasted this full strength Ghost, and my whole mouth is on fire. I actually lost a bet to my brother. Bet to my brother on the Flyers and the Penguins. He's a Penguins fan. I'm a Philadelphia Flyers fan, and I owe him to chug a whole bottle of this, so I'm really dreading paying that bet off. I might actually just chug the rest of it when we're done tonight and send him a video of it and say we're done. But man, this Ghostface Killer is as advertised. It is hotter than hell. Even in small concentrations, it packs a heat punch. So Dugout, you're probably lucky you aren't with us.
Well, I'm no stranger to those really hot beers. I've brewed a couple of them. I've used Devil's Tongue, and I've used Carolina Reapers. So those beers, yeah, they get hot as hell, and they smack you in the face right up front. But they tend to dissipate pretty quick. The heat that's in the oil of the pepper is pretty dissipated it's not really that present in the beer itself. So that heat doesn't hang on for a long time, but it's hot, man. And those beers, you're good for maybe one, but you can't continue to drink it because that heat will eventually build up, and you'll just be like, "This is too damn hot."
Well, as somebody that likes the heat, I mean, I'm enjoying this, especially when it's diluted. But the pure full strength is almost. What am I saying? Sadistic to drink it. I mean, you're punishing yourself. I brag about my tolerance for heat, but this is even maybe over the top even for me. But that being said, I think it's a great pairing with the Ghost in the Machine. So I'm going to call this one Rage Against the Ghost Machine.
Yeah, I guess the thing about the heat is, you know, after you've been drinking a bunch of beers, spicy food tastes really, really good, you know, and particularly Mexican burritos that are just really on fire. But that's after. That's not like, you don't do that during. So that's where I find that, like, that pepper sort of sits in there. Like, yeah, you can have one towards the end, but don't do it in the beginning.
Well, I'm enjoying this, but I'm also looking forward to the next beer so I can kind of move on and rinse my palate from it, because my whole mouth is numb right now. It's tingly. All right, Steve, any last comments before we move on to your next one?
It's just hot as hell. My mouth is burning. Anyway, I'm looking forward to a palate cleansing stout coming up next.
All right, and then Steve's next in the rotation. I kind of saddled him with this beer. I'm going to describe it and let him introduce it. This beer was introduced to me by Alec from Detroit Area Craft Beer Enthusiasts, better known as DACBE or DACB, the local craft beer group, one of many that I'm in here in the Detroit area. So I want to give Alec full credit. He calls this pairing Hobo's Breath. I've never had it myself, but I've heard a lot of on the interwebs, a lot of debate on the Facebook group. People that have tried it swear that it's a really good pairing. So I'm going to allow SAK to introduce you to this one with full credit to Alec from DACB. So, Steve, why don't you tell us what this cuvee is and pour us a few samples so we can get rid of this heat.
Hobo's Breath is a combination of a couple of very, very well thought of beers. First one is KBS from Founders, which is a stout, barrel aged, and then with coffee. Highly sought after, obviously. The other one is Oddside Ale's Rye Hipster Brunch Stout, which is a stout brewed with maple syrup aged in rye whiskey barrels with coffee and bacon. So, I mean, we've got two, both our stouts have coffee in them. Obviously, the Rye Hipster Brunch also has the added flavorings of maple and bacon, perhaps like maple bacon porter. I've had it. It tastes very good. Obviously, both of these are excellent beers individually. I can only hope that they are excellent together.
Yeah, that's very highly recommended. So let's give it a little pause while we pour a few samples here and let you know how it tastes.
I was saying, John, I'm actually kind of growing to like the Ghostface, Rage in the Ghostface machine or whatever that's called.
If I could pause,
not a lawnmower beer.
If
I wouldn't want to chug one after a workout.
Were you guys? Because there was a very long blank spot, so whatever you were doing earlier, you're going to need to restart, and it's blank again.
What? Is it blank again?
Yeah, you guys completely cut out.
I was saying, I actually, I'm growing to like the Rage in the Ghostface machine more. It's not a lawnmower beer. You wouldn't want to chug one of these after a workout, but it's definitely a unique taste profile, and the heat, like you said, Doug, dissipates. My mouth is not burning anymore. So I'm thinking of going back for a couple more sips in a couple minutes here.
Rage Against the Ghost Machine. It is a proven winner now. All right, so we're moving on to Hobo's Breath. Bear with us one more moment.
And then pile up in there. Pile up in there.
Well, while Steve's pouring for us, that Rye Hipster Brunch is money in the bank. I really love that beer. And, of course, KBS has its own legend behind it. So two of Michigan's finest barrel-aged stouts combining to make Hobo's Breath. So not sure where the name came from. We'll have to ask Alex. I would have invited him to come on the show, but he's a new dad. Just recently became a dad. So congratulations, Alex, for that. Thank you for providing us with an idea.
Show. All right. Time out. That whole thing is echoed, like echo chamber. I'm sorry to stop you. It just sounds really bad.
You want me to start over then?
Yeah, now you're clear, but you weren't. It was like two mics going with a lag.
I've been pretty good about muting when I'm not talking, but I think Steve left his on, so.
Okay.
Not trying that's blame here. We're just trying to make.
No. Just trying to start so we can get a clearer.
All right. So you want me to take two on that?
Take two.
So you're gonna have your work cut out for you this time.
Yep.
All right. Are you muted? Okay. Well, while Steve's pouring a sample here, I just want to give full credit to Alec from DACB, one of the admins and founders of Detroit Area Craft Beer Enthusiasts. I was going to invite him on the show to maybe help us review this since it's his creation, but he just recently became a dad, within the last 2 weeks. So congratulations on being a dad, Alec, and we'll go ahead and review this. It's something I've never had, but I know you speak highly of it, and many of the members of the group, of the DACB group, speak highly of it. So I'm excited because I love both of these beers, especially fond of the Rye Hipster Brunch from Oddside Ales, one of my all-time favorites. And obviously KBS has a loyal following for many, many years as one of the finest barrel-aged beers to come out of Michigan. So we got two heavyweights combined. I expect that nothing less than this to be a masterpiece. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Steve, as he just poured us a few samples, and I'll let him give the first review.
Well, obviously, this pours, both of the stouts themselves are just motor oiled black. Very little carbonation here. On the nose, there's probably some coffee in there, but mostly what I smell is maple, and some of the toasted, the malt from the stout. For something that has about a 50-50 ratio of coffee stout to maple bacon coffee stout, there's still very, very prominent maple flavor to me. Not too sweet or cloying, but definite maple characteristic. I'm not sure how subtle it is. I am not sure how much KBS I would have to add in order to make the maple subtle, but it's an excellent flavor.
Well, I was going to say, why would you want to mute the maple? It's delicious, especially after we've had certain maple beers that are kind of disappointing, that very subtle in the background. This one actually has like a nice maple profile to it, but I can taste the coffee too. But man, is this smooth and delicious. It's just got great, full of flavor, nice and creamy mouthfeel, full-bodied, nice aroma. It's sweet, but not too sweet. It's not like a Southern Tier sweet. It's just, it really is a winner. So Alec is onto something here, and glad that we were able to review and enjoy this one. I highly recommend anybody that has a bottle of each of these to try this. It's a real treat. I think I actually like this better than either one of these alone. And, you can't go wrong with either of these beers alone, but this is a nice surprise. Very, very enjoyable brew, Cuvée.
That's a great comment. I mean, I felt the same way with the Human M43. Not that mix was better or worse, but that it was different enough to where I would go out and get it like in a heartbeat. But my question was going to be, does the mix exceed the parts? And you kind of answered my question there.
When I've had Rye Hipster before, I have felt like it borders on excessive. One of those beers that's really, really great when you're at the tap room and you have a 6-ounce pour or a 4-ounce pour, but the second 4-ounce pour maybe just is it gets to be too much. This is one that definitely you could have a 12-ounce. I'm not saying a bomber. It would be that would be excessive alcohol. But this really does mute the flavor profile enough that it actually doesn't become overpowering.
Yeah, I have to say, SAK, I've had the Hipster Brunch too, and I couldn't agree with you more that the tap version is where it's at, and the bottled version just seems it's good when it first comes out, but man, it falls off quick and it doesn't age well. And you end up with like kind of some weird flavors over a period of time, even 6 months. So it's kind of cool to hear that you think the same thing I do about that beer, where it's great fresh. But yeah, what a fun thing to do. I mean, most people would be like aghast that we're mixing some of these things, because these are whales to some people, you know.
Well, you know what? All I can say is I wish Alec were with us to tell us the story. Number one is, where did the name come from? Because I don't know many hobos that are going to be having either of these beers. And number two, I'd love to hear maybe how this originated for him. Because you told the story of how the Huma one came to be. I wonder how he discovered this one. But that's half the fun. Is just it's like a discovery. It's like just trying something new and seeing what happens. And that Ghost in the Machine one was a complete reach, and I'm really pleased with the way that one come out. So, hey, if you get nothing else out of this episode, it's to be adventurous and try some Cuvees, because I can remember one share I had where we had probably 10 sours and 20 stouts, and I remember all the backwash went into the like when people were tasting and there were too many beers, they didn't want to drink too much, so they'd pour it in a pitcher. And one of the guys at the share at the end of the night just took the pitcher and chugged it and said it was delicious. And that's a little bit extreme, but his initials were JR, and it wasn't me. That's all I'll say. He knows who he is, and he would do it again in a heartbeat. It's just how he is. But hey, it is fun to try some new things. So, perhaps even more than 2 beers. Maybe for our last one, we might even do 3. So the last one of the night will be for me, and it'll be a wild card.
I was threatening Andrea that I was going to bring a double, a triple, and a quad, and I was going to mix those together, and just because they were ordinal numbers, and they would average a triple, and just to see what they tasted like.
Ooh, I think the double and the quad would work. I don't see the triple mixing in. That yeast profile is so much different from those other two, where the other two I feel could blend in very nicely. But I could see like something blending into a triple, like say a fruit beer could go very nicely, especially a really sweet fruit beer in just a small amount would make a triple just really come alive.
It was a threat I did not carry through on, because I did not feel like it would be a complementary flavor profile either.
Yeah, no. Yeah, 2 and 4, double quad. I think those would go.
Hey, I got an idea. How about a triple and a Lindemann's Framboise? We could call it the Triple Lindy.
I think that would, it's a right pour. That would totally work. I could totally see that working.
Rodney Dangerfield would approve.
Yeah, I think a double plus a quad together. I mean, you could make light about how it averages a triple. But I think you're onto something there, Doug. Had I really thought about it, I probably could have brought something like that, and it might have been interesting.
Well, and so 1 and 3. So you've got a blonde or a Belgian strong ale, and then mix that with a triple. I think you could get something out of that too. But so it's like with the Belgians, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, a mix. I don't think 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or 3 and 2 would mix.
All right. Well, Dugout, I think it's your turn to go next.
All right. So I've got 2 Michigan beers here. I don't think we've ever reviewed Rubaeus from Founders Brewing. And what I want to do is just taste these off on their own, just a quick review of them. And I don't think we reviewed Kunin's Ode Bruin on this show either. So I'm going to start with the Rubaeus. It's a can. It's a raspberry beer. And it's all about raspberries. I mean, it is just punch you in the face raspberries. The nose is raspberries. The flavor is raspberries. It's one of the better fruit beers that you can find. I mean, a lot of times fruit beers, especially raspberry beers, can develop sort of a stemmy greenness about them. This does not have it. It has a slight tartness to it, but it's all about raspberry flavor in this beer. Very natural tasting, not not artificial at all. So that would be Rubeus, sort of 4.5%. Sort of a session beer. I've seen it on Nitro. It's got some versatility to it. All right, second beer, Kunin Brewing Company out of Warren. Now this one is called a barrel-aged Oud Bruin, and it's from 2017. I also have in my fridge a cherry Oud Bruin from the same year, but I think they used the same stickers for both bottles, or the back of both bottles, because it says Oud Bruin. This old brown ale is made with the traditional blend of domestic yeast and wild Brett yeast. We add Michigan cherry juice after fermentation to add life back to this aged beer. Well, wouldn't that be the cherry Oud Bruin? I'm confused. So I don't know. It doesn't pours out a pretty murky brown. The cherry Oud Bruin is I've had one the other night, very flat, no carbonation. This is absolutely not like that. It's great carbonation. Of course, kind of a reddish brown. The nose off it is funk and barnyard. It's definitely got that Brett quality to it. And this one itself is tart in itself. I'm not tasting cherries in this. It has cherry-like characteristics, so I'm thinking the back label's wrong on this. This is just a straight-up Oud Bruin. All right, now for the mix. I'm going to go easy because I've got maybe a half a glass here of the Oud Bruin. I'm just going to insert just a little raspberry. Raspberry's got a lot of carbonation to it, so it's sort of adding to the carbonation of the pear. Now the nose is sort of messing around and getting like some really nice fruit smells, but not solid raspberry like I was on the Rubeus. So, kids, if you're at home and you have both of these beers, don't mix them. This is ass. I didn't have a lot in the glass, so I'm glad I did not pour any more into it. I'm just going to stop this review right here and say don't do it. Give me half a second here. Let's try one more thing. I still got M43. That goes in. Rubeus. So now we've got a luscious sort of red grapefruit looking beer. And I get all that mango hoppiness off the M43 because it's been warming up. It's the bottom of the can, so all the silt's in there. But I get a nice little tinge of raspberry in that one. Wow. Winner chicken dinner on this one. Rubeus and M43, yes. Rubeus and Oud Bruin, absolutely not.
Only one way to find out. Trial and error.
Trial and error, Thank God I didn't pour much of this Oud Bruin. This Oud Bruin is tasting fantastic, by the way. And I know they have bottles available at Kunin, so anybody that's in the Metro Detroit area that's near Warren, stop in and get a bottle. And it's not the cherry Oud Bruin, it's just one called barrel-aged Oud Bruin. This stuff is amazing. Wow. I mean, I would mix this with, say, one of those... like a KBS or a Plea the Fifth bourbon barrel. That, I think, would work, but definitely not with another fruit beer.
All right. I guess that wraps that one up, huh? So M43 and Rubeus is a winner?
M43 and Rubeus. And I'll tell you what, I almost should do the 3 blend. And what the heck, why not? I still got a little bit of Huma in here, too.
Because you can.
Because I can. Ooh, did that carb up nice.
That's half the fun of doing these, is just like the discovery, You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, that shot of Huma just took this to another level.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
I mean, that I can get the acidity of how much acidity is in that Rubeus now that it's mixed in with these other two beers. You don't get that drinking it straight up because there's that sweetness, and it sort of coats just sort of yin and yang of the tartness, sweet tart. But when it's mixed down with the IPAs, you definitely get that sort of acidic raspberry, but it just a nice combo.
All right, well, that sounds like quite an experiment there. It went south quick, but you turned it around, and I think my recommendation on that Oud Brewing is just drink it by itself. It sounds fantastic. Did you hear me, Doug?
No, it was just silent.
Oh, I said that sounds like a review that went south quick, but got saved from the ashes. And my recommendation, based on what you said, is just get an Oud Brewing and drink it by itself.
Yeah, I mean, or, hey, let's take this another step further in another episode and do Build-A-Beer. So you start with 1, 2, 3, and keep going until you can't drink it.
That sounds disturbing.
Yeah, it is a little bit disturbing. I'd stop at 3.
Don't they have a Build-A-Beer up at Great Lakes Crossing?
Do they really? I avoid it. I stop by there, but...
I'm joking. Build-A-Bear. They have it at Great Lakes Crossing.
Build-A-Bear. Oh, wrong. Yeah, wrong spelling.
All right, well, I guess we're back to the island for the grand finale here. And I've got quite an assortment of stuff here. SAK and I have kind of had a little bit of discussion. So I'm going to throw a few things out here, and we're going to figure this out. I think we've decided our base is going to be the Bell's 30th Anniversary Ale Imperial Stout, which is a very solid, good Imperial Stout. And then we have a few choices here. We have the New Glarus Raspberry Tart. We have the Dogfish Head Fruitful Fort, which just came out, which I don't see an ABV on here, but I have to think it's probably 17, 18%. Knowing
Online it says 18.
Okay, 18, and it's ale brewed with boysenberry, raspberry, blackberry, and elderberry. And I also have a higher math, which is brewed with sour cherry juice. I'm going to actually chocolate and sour cherry juice for the higher math. So I don't know. What do you think? I'm thinking the one with all the 4 fruits. Or we could be convinced to do the raspberry from New Glarus.
Doug, have you ever had Fort? Doug?
I think I have, and I think I've had it at a share where you were involved.
I don't know if you were. It's the closest thing I've ever. It reminds me very strongly of raspberry Easbach from Kuhn.
Okay. Yep.
It is about that same strength. It's about that same mouthfeel. It's a big beer. I'm thinking of trying to convince John to open up the raspberry tart because I hate to have him open up an 18% beer and then have me bolt.
Yeah, I kind of think that too. And that's a recent beer release, correct?
Yep, just bought it today.
Yeah, man, that stuff is going to be so hot. That's going to be like pouring a shot into your coffee. Like a shot of whiskey into your coffee. I mean, perfect. So whatever you do with that, though, is going to be overtaken by the heat of the alcohol of that beer. Most of those beers, my experience with Dogfish Head, with those, 16, 17, 18s, you need to just put them away right away and let them sit for a few years because that burn is going to be so prevalent. I mean, you could mix that with a pepper beer and had that'd be doing like shots of Fireball,
Well, I do have a higher math here that's been aged, but I'm going to err on the side of caution here and go ahead and do the New Glarus Raspberry Tart just because I think that'll be a very nice match with the Bell's 30th Anniversary. So without further...
Oh, I agree with you. Oh, man, I'm jealous right there. Just hearing those two, I'm jealous. And I wish I'd have pulled out one of my 30s to mix with the Rubeus because I thought that would be bang on too, just awesome.
All right, well, we just popped those two open, so that's going to be the call. The two Dogfish Head, alcohol bombs are going to go back into the cellar where they belong. I think this will be a good one, though. It's probably the right choice. I also probably don't think, I think Steve did probably, three quarters stout to 1 quarter of the raspberry to start. That's what I kind of watched him do, and that's what I would do. So, he's adding some more raspberry. So let's see. I'll let him chime in here. All right, so we just poured it in, and obviously the 30th anniversary stout, nice and robust, nice, healthy, cola-looking head. Does not dissipate all the way out. This is facing the stout on its own. Oh wow, it's been aged a little bit. You got a little bit of dark fruit, a little bit. You can tell it's been aged. It's not oxidized, but it's very complex, very nice. All right, so I'm gonna pour some raspberry tart in here now. I'm going to do about a 1-to-4 ratio. Oh, yeah. And that's delicious, man. Oh, my gosh. Even though it says raspberry tart, it adds some sugar to it. Maybe a little sweeter. It's delicious. It's like liquid candy. Not too sweet, though. I mean, there's enough tartness to keep it in check. I'm going to go ahead and mute and let Steve comment.
I've always said about the New Glarus fruit beers is I'm glad I didn't grow up in is it Minnesota? I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I was not exposed to New Glarus as a teenager because, I mean, I had enough trouble with Boone's Farm. If I'd had something actually good to drink, it would have been bad. These are so the fruit beers are so sweet and crisp. This has a little bit of tartness. Now, I should probably have added more stout than I did because it is so tart, because it is so fruity, because it is so sweet. To me, at a 50-50 ratio, it does overwhelm the stout a little bit, but that can be remedied by adding some more stout, I believe. And I'm going to try that.
Yeah, please do. I mean, what I found is that if you're using a good bourbon barrel aged stout as a base, then add to taste on the fruit beer, starting with small amounts, less is more, because those fruit beers can really take over something really quick. And I think I probably suffered that fate with the Cherry Oak Bruin in the Rubaeus. I probably should have just did a drop of Rubaeus. It might have been palatable. So just some tips for cuvéing from my own personal tastes. Especially if you're using a bourbon barrel age, that big, dark, heavy base. But even something like a 30-year big, strong stout like that, just a little touch of that raspberries, it's going to be like adding some extract into something. You don't want to just open up the bottle. You just want to take a little drop of it.
I'm also I added a little bit of KBS to this mixture too. I'm channeling my inner dugout.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! Go man, go!
Give me some of that rye hipster. Yep, that's John, what I'm going to do.
John, I suggest this. This is with about a third KBS.
All right, Steve just handed me a glass with the KBS in it before I do mine with the rye hipster. Oh man.
That's the best so far.
It's delicious.
The extra bit of stout here, plus maybe the bitterness of the coffee, really, I mean, you wouldn't think of, when you have raspberry candy with dark chocolate, you like the bitter and the chocolate. I know John doesn't like chocolate, but raspberry goes best with a bitter dark chocolate. And the fact that this has like the bitter coffee on top of it, this is really a winner, actually. I think the KBS, heavy on the stout, heavy on the 30-year, and a little bit of raspberry tart is a winner.
I really enjoyed it, but I've just tasted the rye hipster one, and I think that's even better. I'm going to let you taste that one, Steve. Hang on. I'm a big rye fan. I like a little spiciness. Steve's right. I'm not really that big of a chocolate guy, but let's see what he thinks.
That really is an excellent blend. Doug, I think you're onto something here with when you have a big fruity beer, you either drink it by yourself or you put it in moderation. whether it's Rubaeus or Raspberry Tart or, whatever. You have to really titrate it in gradually or just have it by itself.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like being a bartender. You're not going to put equal parts of everything into a drink to come up with something good. The same with cooking. Put like, a tablespoon of everything in. You put a tablespoon and a teaspoon and a little pinch. That's what gets you your best results. Just knowing what the characteristics are of the beers before you mix them can get you something really great. And I know there's breweries that actually do these cuvées with aged beers, and they take. And I wish we would have had a true cuvée on the episode. Thinking back, we can do this episode again. I hope we do, and then we bring some real cuvées. Not that ours aren't real, but to just say manufactured cuvées. They're usually very sought after from the breweries that do them with different vintages, things of the like. But that's something that's not a new trend in brewing at all. That's something that's been done for a very, very long time over in Europe. I think the U.S. just starting to get a little taste of it. We're here to promote it and have some fun with it too.
Isn't Black Note, is that a blend of Expedition Stout and Cream Stout?
Yeah, double cream.
Yep, double cream stout. And you know what? I looked at that bottle tonight, and I really looked hard at that bottle and thought, man, what would that be like with some Rubaeus in it? And I just, that was my last bottle, and I thought, no, we'll just go with something else.
Well, technically that means it's already a cuvee.
Correct.
So one more final note, just for shits and giggles, we can say that because of the podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
we added,
we'll get that. We'll get that Tipper Gore label on the podcast.
That's nice. Okay.
Language.
So, just for shits and giggles, we added a little bit of the ghost pepper beer to the rye hipster version of the last beer, which was Bell's 30th anniversary. New Glarus Raspberry Tart. Rye hipster from Odd Sides, and now a little bit of the ghost pepper, and it might be the best one of the night. It's pretty damn good. I got one more sip left. I'm not noticing the pepper on the aroma, which is nice, but there's so much other good flavors going on that and I didn't pour a lot of the ghost in, just enough to make it's a nice peppery zip finish that accompanies that rye and the rye hipster perfectly.
That's the KBS.
Oh, and now we have the KBS with a little. Was that also pepper?
Yes, KBS, rye hipster. No, KBS 30, raspberry tart, and ghost pepper.
Yeah, they're all tasting good now. I don't know if my palate reacts, but we've got like 10 bottles in front of us that reach about 1/3 of the left. I think we'll have a little fun after we go off the air here. But good discoveries. I guess closing. One of the things I would say is not too of any one thing. You're better off, like with the stout one, we're better off adding a little bit of fruit, a little bit of pepper. Don't do 50-50s very often, although with the two IPAs that Dugout did, that worked perfectly. Really, it's just trial and error, and we had a lot of fun doing this. I have a lot of bottles. The only ones I didn't open with the Dogfish Heads one, and I think the ABV scared us up. And that's fine. Those probably are cuvées on their own, especially the one with 4 different fruits in it. Fruitful fort. But we'll get around to those in a future episode. Matter of fact, I don't know if we've ever done a Dogfish Head episode, have we?
Not solid, no.
No, maybe we're going to do that. We'll do it. We'll call it the Green Cap episode with the exclamation point. Hopefully we can double up and have a couple beer nuts at each location for that. Those are
and I think maybe future episodes of the Cuvée episode could be done sort of en masse with several people together. I think the more the merrier on this type of episode, where we start with maybe 6 people, 6 beers, and then we take our cuvées from there, and each person mixes a different cocktail up and does a round like that.
Yeah, it's almost being like a beer tender. We got a bottle of KBS here, Ghost in the Machine, the Southern Tier Peach. We got what's that? The Bell's 30th, the Ghostface Killer, Bourbon Barrel, Plead the Fifth, New Glarus Raspberry Tart, and a Rye Hipster.
And then over on this side, we got Humalupa, we got an M43, we've got our Rubaeus, we've got a Kunin Ode Bruin, and had more people been over, I'd probably dipped in a little further, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4 beers, and I'm not into dumping things out, so. That's going to be an evening killer for me to get rid of the rest of these.
All right. Well, that was fun. Now we've got a lot of cleanup to go. Thank you guys for enduring this with us. We had a lot of beer nuts on the last several episodes. Today was not so many people available, but it was really fun for those of us that were able to participate. So to our listeners, thanks again. Continue to follow us on @BeerNutsPodcast on Twitter, Beer Nuts Podcast on Facebook, and I think Beer Nuts Podcast on Instagram. And you can always reach out to JR here at MichiganBeerGuy.com or at MichiganBeerGuy on Twitter. I think that's about it. Any final comments, gentlemen?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, fun episode. Don't be afraid to experiment with things and have fun with beers. I mean, so many people are so serious and ridiculously over serious about certain beers that lighten up, have a beer, and
relax. Don't worry, have a homebrew. Just want to congratulate Dugout, who has some kind of recognition coming from the Michigan Beer Cup. Why don't you expand on that, Doug?
Well, I don't want to talk about it too much until it's here. It was a double IPA. Originally was a double IPA, and it was part of Warren. This is a great event, by the way, Warren Big Brew, where there's a park in Warren, Michigan, where all these home brewers come out and they brew beers, and then there's stands available. There's some commercial brewers come, and there's some tickets, so it just becomes this big beer festival. It just happened to be 30 degrees that day, 32 degrees, and the wind was blowing from the north off of Lake Huron like knives. And so what was originally slated to be a 9% beer, through the evaporation process of the weather, turned into an 11% beer. And my double IPA, through some aging, turned into an American barley wine. So I entered into the competition as American barley wine, and I think that beer is pretty killer. I think, JR, you have had some of it. You've definitely had it. But it might have been late in the evening, so you might not remember that one. And it's a killer. I opened one by mistake with a few of my neighbors. I thought it was my pale ale, and it was a big bomber, and I shared it, and everybody was just like, I had to carry them all home.
You didn't have to carry me home, but I remember it, and I did make it up the stairs.
So we'll see. We'll reserve whatever it gets. It could be an honorable mention. I hope it's not, but we'll see what happens with it. I've got another beer entered into that same, it's all part of the Michigan Homebrewers Festival. Happens up in Lake Orion. There's a campground there. People camp out for 4 and 5 days, and this festival goes on and on and on. It's my first year doing it, so I can't give any reviews or anything. Everything I hear about it's awesome. There's going to be a mead tent where all you get is mead. There's going to be some fantastic beers there. I did a beer called a Gang Brew, which was brewed with 2 other people, and it is a Belgian triple that has ginger lemon and green tea, and this beer came out phenomenal. One of the better beers that I brewed. I don't know if it's my best. I can't say that. It's going to do good things. So I got a lot of bottles of that because I did a 10-gallon batch and brewed off an extra 5 gallons, bottled that all up. That'll be split between 3 people. Really, you guys are going to really enjoy this stuff. I guarantee it.
Amen, brother. Well, congratulations. Even if you just get an honorable mention, still a great feather in your cap. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep brewing. And keep funneling us samples because we always enjoy your brews.
Well, thanks, man. It's not about the awards. I mean, it's really not. I'm happy when I get them. It's very validating. But
I'm happy when I get them, too.
It's not why I do it. I mean, I do it for the passion of brewing good beer. This award has a lot of entries, a lot of entrants, I don't even know how many people were in that same category. It could be 25 or 30 people. So just to rise up and say you've got this mention is pretty special to me. Even if that's where it just stops right there, just an honorable mention. And I'm happy with that. But I even think the beer that I brewed for one of the challenges for the competitions is a better beer than this one. So.
All right. Well, congrats again. We look forward to seeing exactly what accolades you may receive, but even more importantly, celebrating with you by drinking tomorrow. All right. Great show, guys. Not really any time to do hipster tipster. We'll figure that out next time. Final comment, Steve. Otherwise, you're going to Mexico.
I really enjoyed myself here. It was I guess I'm a snob in the sense that I never mix beers. I drink my Coca-Cola straight, and I drink my bourbon straight, and I drink my beer exactly the way it came out of the bottle. And it was it's not uncomfortable to step out of your comfort zone and mix a couple of beers, but I really enjoyed it, and it taught me a few things. I think the ghost pepper beer as an adjunct, just like if you were peppering your meal, a little bit goes a long way. You wouldn't want somebody to have unscrewed the cap and have pour the entire shaker out onto your spaghetti. But pepper, it's a great adjunct. The fruit beers in moderation, and I think stouts in general are going to be a great base. And Doug, I'm looking forward to trying an M43 Huma blend.
Oh, you're going to dig it. And, make sure you got a rubaeus on the backside to just touch it up a little bit. Not pour a whole bunch in, just a little touch.
Sounds good. And even more than that, I'm looking forward to trying your barley wine again. Maybe at the beginning of the night, not the end next time.
I think there's only 2 bottles of that left. One's a bomber and one's a 12-ounce. Although there's a mystery bottle, 12-ounce, that's in my fridge. But ever since that episode with the neighbors where I opened the bomber of barley wine instead of 6% pale ale, and it put them all into a coma, I'm a little more particular about marking my bottles now. There still is a mystery bottle.
Well, having partied with your neighbors, it's probably good you put them into a coma. They need it a little bit.
No, different neighbors.
Oh, okay. All right. Those who are listening know who they are. All right, guys. Well, that's a great time. It's time to head to Mexico City. So thanks again. Keep listening. Keep tweeting. Keep drinking. So as they say in old Mexico City, AF.
If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook by searching for Christopher Media. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Thank you in advance for supporting Christopher Media by clicking on the PayPal button and by clicking through to all the sponsors who support ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net, and thank you for listening. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online, so any small business can drive change or build an empire. We need a new generation of thinking. Your way of thinking. Start different at GoDaddy.com. A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online, so any small business can drive change or build an empire. We need a new generation of thinking. Your way of thinking. Start different at GoDaddy.com.